Okay, good day everybody. Apologies for the slight delay there. We were trying to get our internet to be a little bit more responsive. Welcome to the third session now in the lockdown period. We are going to be going through the final costings today, as well as your debtors, so invoicing, receipting, things like that. So over to Christine. Let's get this done.
Hi everyone. Sorry, that was the quickest lunch break I've ever had. Right, okay, so let's get started. We're going to carry on with the same job that we have actually been doing, and that is our Mark Borman. So I'm going to go into my car so I can find our Borman. Just for any new people that have actually come through, if I go to my spares summary, I have actually made some extras. I have received extras that I didn't actually want at all. I have done my door lock, which I have said is not required, that I don't actually want it. I have not purchased my front wheel alignment as yet, and my left front fender is an alternate part, and I'm actually going to use that as my example of I decided to actually repair the left front fender instead of buying a new one. So what I'm going to do, the first thing to do for that purpose is I go into my part and order history. I have purchased it from Capricorn Parts and it's 35043. So I then go up to my stores, my receiving of ordered parts. It is for Capricorn. There it is there. And I am going to delete that order. Right, so it's disappeared off of that window. So if I come back in here, my left front fender is now back to being waiting to be ordered. I actually don't want it because we're not going to be buying it. So I'm going to set it to not required. But what I am going to do is I'm going to create an extra for the repairing of the left front fender. And I'm going to say that it's only going to cost me 600 Rand. Right, okay, save. Right, so I've just now made the extra for that part, for that repairing of our left front fender. So there it is there. If I authorize it, my internal authorization has done. And the insurance company has said that yes, we can actually go ahead and authorize it. So I'm very quickly just going in and actually authorizing those parts. Right, I don't need to order it because it's actually a repair. Right, okay, so that's what I have actually now done, is our left front fender originally started on our part section, and we are now changing it from part into labor. Right, our front bumper, I'm going to receive this part as well to say that it has actually come in. Sorry, I'm just thinking of maybe first I should show you what it looks like. Okay, no, I will. Right, but I am going to order my front wheel alignment. Right, so create an order. I want my front wheel alignment, make the order. It's going to, right, Gus panel beaters, he's doing it, and I commit my order. Right, close down. Stores, receiving. I'm just getting my facts straight so that when we come to do the final repair calculations, everything is actually on the system correctly. Right, okay, so my front wheel alignment all my prices are correct, so I receive it and I put in my number and I say receive adjusted order. Right, so I have done that. The only thing that is not being done at this point is our front bumper is on back order. It's on X factory. Right, these items here. Right, so let's close this all down now. Right, so that is where we actually are sitting at this point. The job is now finished. We are happy with it. And the customer has now decided to actually come and fetch his car. So we're now wanting to make an invoice for the customer's excess. So if we go to our invoicing side of things, we can have a look at our authorization. Right, it is going to be for 2,500, so we're quite happy with all of that. We've got all the details as much as we need at this point in time. Right. So I can now go into make an invoice, and I am looking for my excess on the insurance claim. So I drag that down to the bottom and I click on make the invoice. It has automatically gone through to cash sale because Mark Foreman does not have an account with us. If I wanted Mark to actually have an account with us, you can go to your add your to drop list and actually add him on so that he can become a debtor. But majority of your excesses, they should be paid on the spot. So there should normally be a cash sale. Right. Our cash sale at this point has actually been set that we do not have VAT actually on our excess. If you do want VAT on your excess, there is a tick box here, where if you tick it, it now breaks it down into, it's still the same amount of money, but now the excess has actually come through. I mean, the VAT has actually now come through. The only thing you probably need to do is if Mark actually wanted a VAT invoice, it's because he wants his VAT number to actually be on it. So if you go to address and other details, you can now type in the VAT number that he has actually given you, and it will now come up onto the system. Right, going back to our main invoice. If you need to change your invoice date, you can do so. You just highlight and change it to the date that you actually want. If you are wanting to show your agreed cost of repairs actually on the invoice so that the client can see what quote was actually done to his car, you can click on this print agreed cost, and that is what that button there is actually all about. I also want my banking details to actually come up, and when I print the invoice, it's I must print the invoice when the commit button is used. If I untick that and I say commit, it will commit the invoice, but it won't print it. All right, so we have now made our invoice, but what we do need to do is we need to print out our release form and things like that as well. So that is where our print release form actually comes up. This here is the standard release form that comes through. You can have your logos and things like that come through at the top here. And you can actually have additional writing actually come up. Sorry, let's actually go and do that additional writing so you can see what I mean. Extra clearance, and then say print release form, right? It actually now writes up as well that should the insurer not honor, you are, as the insured customer, remain liable for the full settlement. So it's basically just telling the client that if the insurance company doesn't pay, they are liable for it. So it is a good thing to actually have, just to keep yourself covered at all times. Right, I hereby authorize With the POPI Act, you actually have to now ask people's permission to do customer surveys, and that is what that line is actually all about. Do they allow you, yes or no? So you print out your release form. All right. You can also print out your CSI questionnaire. On here, you can have a standard one, or you can actually choose different ones that you want. I'm just going to print a Santam one. Right. You see how it actually writes up a brief description of the work done. The customer fills in this section here if he's got any complaints or anything like that. But otherwise, it pulls through all of the details from the actual program itself. And then the client will sign, and then you will sign at the bottom here for the CSI. All right, so you've got your customer satisfaction, your CSI reports coming through as well. You can have your own report where you have actually standardized it. So we can do that as well. You'll see that that is under your standard company CSR one. You can choose that if you need to. Right, so at this point, you've done everything that you need to do for actually making this invoice. So let's commit and print it. Right, there's my agreed cost of repairs. It has actually come up at the bottom, my banking details, the breakdown, the whole lot, everything is now on here, VIN numbers, everything is actually there that they need. Right, you can make it into a PDF so that you can email it to the client at the same time. But at this point, I'm just going to say no, I'm not going to print it. And it now comes up and it tells me that an excess has actually been invoiced out. Right, and that it was invoiced out with the VAT portion actually on it. Right, so generally what would now happen at this point is going back to our monitor is the client would have come to fetch their car. Here is our foreman that we're actually working on. We would have dealt with him and actually have moved in from his different departments. We did go through that yesterday as to how to move departments. So Mark has now come to fetch his car. You've given him his invoice. He's filled in all the paperwork. So we are just going to say delete the monitor record because the car has now left your premises. Are you sure? Yes, I am. He's no longer on our monitor. Monitor being a list of all the cars that you are responsible for. Right, if I close that down and I go back to my space summary. All right, let's go back into it again. You will see that it is now put in our delivered date actually on the system because we deleted it from there. Right, so we're now ready to make our invoice. Although these days the insurance companies are having to pay before you actually release the excess. So my scenario might be slightly wrong. But anyway, you're now coming to do the insurance company's final repair calculation and you are coming to do your main invoice. To do all of that, we are going to go into our job costings side. We're going to go to our job costing spreadsheet. And this is where the computer gets all of the information on it. Right, okay. Before I actually go into here, I want to just close this down. And I'm going to go to as repaired and view the actual selected quote. Remember, I was telling you that there you can end up with the 4 different quotes. Your as repaired is your final one. What did you actually do to this car? This is up to your original agreed cost of repairs. And then these are all the extras and things like that that you have actually put onto the system. So if you are ever needed to actually reprint a copy of the quote with all of your extras that you have added on, Now, I know that at the moment it is an autodex. You get an autodex and you get another one, and they keep sending you new autodexes, but the new autodexes are literally just adding on your extras. So they should be, as you have here. It might not be in the same order, it might not be the same wording, but they are here as to what you have actually done to that job, because they will not be adding extra parts on unless you have actually asked for it. So if you've done your extras, it should all be on this quoting list. Right, so I can reprint it and it will now have the new prices and things like that actually on that quote for us. Right, so everything is now there. Right, okay, so let's go back to our job costing spreadsheet. That same information that we have just seen on the quote has now been put into Dr. Smash, onto our spreadsheets here. As we have been going through, we have been purchasing parts. There is our Harman, we have purchased our bonnet. We were allowed 5,600 Rand. We purchased it for 4,480. That is what we physically paid for the part. Plus our 25% markup gives us a retail of 5,600. Right, so you will see how the computer, if I move over, has actually put in, we bought it from Harman, that's the invoice number and the date that we've actually done it. So by ordering on the system, it is automatically filling in your final repair calculation for you. These are all of your extras that you have asked for. And literally what we are going to be doing now is showing the insurance company what we want them to see, what we want them to see. Just hold a second. Family are making too much noise again. Sorry. Right. Okay, so this left front fender, we have not purchased it. We were asked originally if we can actually please repair buy the fender, and we decided that we were actually going to repair it. Right. So here at the bottom here is our repair that we actually did. And here is our part that we actually bought. So we have to give them back their 3,500 Rand out of spares. But at the same time, we are asking for 600 Rand to actually be given to us for those repairs instead. Right. So both of those are actually now on the system. This received part extra, it actually arrived when we were doing our orders, and we didn't want it, so we sent it back to the supplier. So we actually do not want it to come up onto our costing sheet at all. So that is where our delete button actually comes in. So you highlight it and you say delete. It gets rid of that part for us. But what it has done is it actually put it into a second window. You've got your deleted item listing here, and it tells you that there's one item actually in it. So we can view the deleted, and there is that part there. We can undelete it if we require it, and have a look at it and that type of thing. So all you're doing is when you say delete here, all you are doing is deleting it from the costing sheet and not from the job itself. Right. Okay, this one here was a reject. We did not want it. So you see how it actually tells us that it was rejected. So that's another one that we're actually going to delete. right? And there's our replace. We repaired it and we did painting of our door. So we're quite happy with those. And for some reason, sorry, I seem to have made the left front fender twice. So let's actually just delete it. I must have been trying to sort myself out and ended up making it before. So literally all I am actually doing at this point in time is just going through and correcting my data to what I want to actually show. If I do not want this bonnet catch assembly, I was allowed 3.8. I only paid net of 2.5, my 25% markup. Now, 25% markup, where is it actually getting this 25% markup from anyway? This is actually coming through from your default, but because I have my protocol, when we did our quote, I set up our quote to say that our protocol is with Avis Rent-A-Car, and with Avis, it actually said that our markup must be 25%. And so that is where the markups are actually coming from. If I want, I can go in and change my protocol to whichever company I'm going to be using, but the computer does remember who you actually did it for at the quote. So therefore, at the end of the job, these are what your prices should actually be. Okay, so I am now saying that this one here, the 675, is I should be giving them back their 675 Rand. If for some reason I actually don't want to give them back their money, front wheel alignment, you see how it's in pink because it says that it has been split. Remember, we split that item on our system. I'm now going to go in and edit. I double click on it, and I now say I want to do an invoice retail of 200 Rand, 280. I want 25% markup, and I click on calculate. It now works itself out. I can put in my supplier's name, I can put in my invoice, and I can put in my date as I need to. And I now click on my OK button. It now writes up those details for you. What it has also done is it has turned this yellow because it is telling you that somebody has physically gone in and made a change to that line. It is not coming through from the rest of the program. It has been changed individually by somebody. Right, okay. And some other things that you might have. Our left front fender here. What we can do, but sometimes with your fenders, not just your fenders, but with your extras, you've actually made extras, you didn't split the item. The example we used originally was left rear door, or one of the doors or whatever, I can't remember what it was. And we were going to be doing the door, the lock, and the glass. If you decided to actually rather make extras instead of splitting those items, what you then have is you would
Sorry,
then
Christine,
highlight.
just try that again. I think you went very electronic there. So I don't think anyone could hear what you're saying. Just repeat that if you don't mind.
Right. We, in our ordering, we split an item, but you don't have to have split the item actually in the order. You could have made extras for the glass and for the lock. So you would have actually have ended up with the lock and the glass down in your extras section at the bottom here. So now you want to attach that lock and that glass to the correct part up at the top here. So you would highlight the part that you're talking about, and you would say attach it to the main item, and then it asks you to go and find what our main item actually is, and you attach it to that. I'm not going to do that at this point, but what would happen, because it will just cause a problem with ours because of ours is being repairs and replaces and that type of thing. So that's why I can't do mine. But what would happen is when you now click on your door or whatever part it actually was, is when you click on it at the bottom here, it will now end up with your left front door, your left front door glass, and your left front door lock. So all three parts will actually be attached to one line item, and the total of your net and things will actually all come through onto that one line. So that is what your attached to main item is all about, is if you had extras on here and that you wanted them to actually be attached to your agreed cost items, you can attach them. Right. We have also got the facility of deleting an allowed item, although you shouldn't really be deleting an allowed item because your agreed cost of repairs said that they had that part, and you should be giving the money back rather than deleting it. But the facility is actually there for us to delete if we need to. But as I said before, it doesn't delete. It actually just puts it onto this listing here. So it won't delete it from the actual job, just from your costing sheet. So your costing sheet it's very difficult to teach on a costing sheet because it depends on your scenario at the time as to what you are actually doing and what you are trying to actually achieve with showing the insurance companies. Right. So other buttons that we do have that can help you is your view hidden. All of these are actually showing you the parts that have actually been purchased, and it is showing you the extras that have actually been done. But if you go to your view hidden, you can now see your the parts, your repairs that are actually on that job as well, and you put it onto the costing. You select it on costing, and it is now put it through onto our lock as well, and we can edit it and change the figure if we need to, because that repair is actually supposed to have been 300 Rand instead of 250. You double click on it and you change it to the 300 Rand instead of the 250 that it's supposed to, that it is written up as. Right, so that's what I'm trying to say, is that a lot of these are how you want to actually show your final repair calculations as to what has actually been happening. If you have a look, when we double click on one of these items, right, you have some buttons at the bottom here. It says, where do you want this item to show? Do you want it to show on the top list, or do you want it to show as an extra? Now, a lot of insurance companies at the moment don't want you to show extras. They want it all to be part of the agreed cost of repairs. That's fine. Just click and say, put that item on the top, click on OK, save the record, and it has now put that item into the top part, taken it off of extras, and said it was part of the original agreed cost of repairs. So, yeah. That's why I say trying to show your final repair calculations is without actually having a specific problem actually around. But it is also where you get most of our questions that you're coming through from. So hopefully I've answered a lot of the questions by showing you how you can manipulate, not really manipulate, but it's how you can actually, I'm going to use the word manipulate, your data to be able to show the insurance company what you want them to actually see. Right. Once you have done all of this, you've now said that overall we actually owe Alexander Forbes 5,000 Rand. We want to print it out. If I click on email and then say your job costing one, it allows us to make it into a PDF file so that we can email it from here. It just literally will write up the final repair calculation as you have it on the screen. But what we have done is just showing you where the different figures and things like that are actually coming from. Right, is our agreed cost of repairs. If we go into our authorization, right, our original total should have been 37638.85, and we now say save. Right, our job costing, right, and it now comes through on the figures here. That's what the original agreed cost actually was, but we have now re-added up all of our spares, our labors and things like that. We have put in all of our totals, and that is what our new figure is actually coming out at. Right. I don't know if I have actually answered your questions, but there's also a second costing sheet that you can use. It's a slightly different format. This one does not show you your supplier details. So that first job costing one is the one that majority of the panel beaters actually keep, so that when they are audited, they have a copy of all the invoices attached to that final repair calculation. So if they are audited, they have all the information together. This one here just breaks down your savings and your extras so that you can actually see what is actually going on, and then has all of your totals and things for you here. Here again, we can do it as a PDF file because we ticked the email. Right. You can also do an excess check. If you click on excess check and now say your job costing, it comes up and it says, right, this is what your excess should be. Do you want that wording? Yes or no? If I say no, sorry, do you want to make changes? I said no. I read it the wrong way around. Sorry. Yes, I do want to change it. My excess is coming up before VAT or after VAT or whatever. So I can now change it to the 2173.56 that it should have actually have been. And I can now click on your OK. Right, and it now comes through as that figure that you put through. So yes, it does show you, allows you to actually do those certain things. We then have our spreadsheets. Now, I know that at the moment, a lot of you are not using the spreadsheets because you are having to put this information actually into Autodex. But we have some good news, we're hoping, fairly soon about Autodex, but I'm not going to let the cat out of the bag too soon. But anyway, we can go to our, let's just say Santam, right? And we do principals, own costing. Okay, couldn't find my Santam costing sheet, but it will actually write up the Santam costing sheet for us into the spreadsheet that they always used to use. So we have got that facility. Let's see whether SA costing taxis will actually work. No, okay, can't find my files. Right, sorry about that. Right, okay, so I think that as much as I can help you with at this point for doing final repairs. Now, I know I'm going to get a lot of questions, so I'm going to stop here, ask some questions, and then we'll carry on with finishing off the insurance invoice.
So I've launched a poll just to see if anyone does have questions so far. Obviously, Christine hasn't gone into any of the details of the protocols. The protocols can also obviously do your certain insurance companies want invoice before the excesses, before VAT, after VAT, before betterment, after betterment, all of those sort of questions. So that is all in the protocols as well. I know she didn't really cover that side of it too much, but that is all obviously all there. And then the extra spreadsheets that she was trying to show you, there's just simply she doesn't have the Excels on her PC, obviously. But those all do work. If you have any questions, if you can try to give us an example, that'll make life a little bit easier, just so we can then work through an example and show you how to do that. But so far, I'm seeing 3 out of 4 people showing no questions. So I'm going to assume that we are good here so far. Christine, do you want to move on to the next section there? I've got 4 out of 4 no questions.
Right. Okay. Okay, so we're now ready to actually make the insurance invoice. We are due to Alexander is 5325. That's the figure down at the bottom here. So we go to make difference value invoice. We click on this one. Right. So it now comes up and it says our agreed cost of repairs was our 37,000. Plus any savings and additions, we are subtracting because we're giving it back to Alexander Forbes. And then we are also going to be subtracting our excess actually on the system as well. So we just drag those 3 lines down. And we click on make the invoice. Dr. Smash already knows that it is for Alexander Forbes because we have put that in as our insurance company that we're actually dealing with. It has worked out all of our figures for us. If we want our excess to actually not be 25, we just do that VAT, and it now takes the excess off before it actually works out VAT. So you have the 2 different formulas as to how you actually want to work those figures. So there's a lot of tick boxes at the top here that allow you to change these rates as you need to. Right. You've also got under your VAT, you have got a up and down arrow key here. Is if on these they have rounded it up and you are rounding it down or whatever it actually is, just click on the up or down and you'll see how it actually now changes the VAT figure so that you can get it to match exactly to what they have actually stipulated on their autodexes. Right. As I had said, if you had contributions actually on this job as well, you've also got whether the contributions are VAT inclusive or not. So this section at the top here, by ticking and unticking, moves your excesses and your VAT around. So play with these until you can get it to actually come out to the way the insurance company have actually asked for those figures to come through. Right. Yeah, so once we have actually finished, if I go to my address and other details, right, Alexander Forbes does not have a VAT number put in, so I can write it in. But if on my, under my queries, under my insurers, I went into Alexander Forbes and typed it in there, it will then have come up automatically actually onto this invoice for us. We would not have to go in and actually check it. Right. I don't need release forms or questionnaires for the insurance companies. So all I need to do is just say commit. Right, it makes that invoice now for us. You see, there's my VAT number. It has actually come through. All my details have come through on the system. I can do as a PDF if I need to, so I can email it off. Right, but I'm just going to not print it. Right, so on this particular job, we have actually now invoiced everything out. We've got a plus and a minus, so it actually zeroes each other out. It's because of the VAT portion, but everything is now working actually on the system. If I go to my debtor transactions, it is now showing me my 2 invoices that I have made for this particular job. So it's telling me that at this point, I have an outstanding amount of that amount of money. If I want, I can make a credit note from here. I just highlight the invoice and I go straight to making a credit note, and it allows me to actually make a credit note. But that is only if you have the authority to actually make a credit note or a debit note. So it depends on what your user rights actually are as to whether you are allowed to make the credit and debit notes. Right. Test the invoice VAT. If I had to click on this one now, I have no VAT errors because my excess was actually made with VAT actually on it. And when I did my insurance company, I did it as well that my excess has VAT on it. So that the correct VAT portion is coming through correctly on both of those invoices. If I had done my original excess at 2.5 with no VAT, and then I did my insurance invoice, and I said that no, the customer wanted VAT, and put the 2.1 figure coming in instead of the 2.5, you would actually have a problem with your VAT because you are now not, your VAT reports are now not balanced because the one invoice did not have VAT and the other invoice did have VAT. So that is what that test invoice VAT button is all about, is to make sure that there is no VAT implications on how you did your invoices. We do have that same report where you can do it for all of your jobs at one time, so that you can go through and check a whole range of jobs at one time and check that your VAT implications are actually correct, actually on it. Right, so let's close this invoice now because we've now finished with it. So we go to close the window. It comes back to our final repair calculation. The reason for this is because in 6 months' time, you want, this is what you showed the insurance company that you actually did to the job. You want in 6 months' time to be able to come back in and reprint it and know that it's going to come out exactly the same. So that is what our commit button is actually all about. There are scenarios where different things happen that could change your costing sheet. Now, simple things like the door lock. You didn't actually use it on the car. You told the insurance company that you did. So you've put it in that you used the door lock here. But then you RFC'd it. And so now it comes through and says, but you've RFC'd it, so it's now taken the money off of what you actually owe, added on to what you now owe the insurance company. So it's now changed your costing sheet. So what you want to do is you always want to commit your costing sheet so that your add buttons Are you sure? Do you want to cancel? Right, there are some jobs that have not actually been, some orders that have actually not been received as yet. So we just say yes, cancel them, because we're not going to receive them. Right, that was one. Right. So if I now go back into my costing spreadsheet, my add buttons and delete buttons and things like that are all grayed out. I can't get to it. Nobody can make changes to this particular costing sheet. Of course, Dr. Smash does know that errors are made and we need to actually go back and do things. So we can go to our edit, our admin, management, and we can uncommit a costing sheet if we need to. So the procedure is there where we can reopen it if you have the authority to actually reopen up a spreadsheet. Right, okay, so let's close this window. And normally what we would do from now is go straight to closing of our job because our job is now finished. Right. Okay, save the job. And on our open jobs now, Foreman has disappeared because Foreman is now finished. Right. If I go up to my debtors, my processing of invoices, you can't see much detail, but there are the 2 invoices that I actually made. There's my 2.5, and then there's my 3/4 that I actually did for the insurance company. I can have a quick look and see that that is my total of what I've invoiced out so far this month. But very few people actually use this screen. They'd much prefer to use, and I do too, batch queries. Batch queries is very much for the owner. At the beginning of the month, that is how much money was actually owed to you by your debtors. You have invoiced out that amount of money, debit notes, credit notes, and any receipts that you have actually made. So therefore, your closing balance at this precise point in time, that is how much money is actually owed to you. If you want, you can have a look and go down to the bottom. There is our 2 invoices that we have actually just made. They go to receipts, and now that's a list of all the receipts that have actually just been made, credit notes and debit notes. So this is actually a very nice screen for knowing exactly how much money is owing to you. All right. Right, okay. Debtors queries. We've got a query on our debtors. We've got a query by the invoice number. We know the invoice number. I happen to know it's the last 2. So there's my 2 Mark Formans. This is a list of every single invoice we have made, what quote and job numbers they actually go against, how much is still owing actually on them, who the debtor is, customer registration, and you carry on looking, and there's your claim numbers and things like that as well. So you can look up information all those different ways. If I wanted to, I can double click on my invoice. I'm just going to say that Alexander actually sent through a second claim number. So I go back into it, I write up the second claim number, and I can now reprint this invoice, right? And my second claim number now comes out onto the actual invoice itself. If there was a problem of any sort, you can double click on it, go into your address and other details, write up your changes that you want, put those actually onto the system and print it out as you need. The only thing that you cannot change is your figures. Is once you have actually made an invoice with figures, you cannot go back in and change those figures. This is for fraud purposes. You don't want a staff member making an invoice for 10,000 Rand, printing it out, and then coming in and changing that invoice to 5,000 Rand, but the customer's now paid them 10,000 Rand and they're keeping the other 5 for themselves. So for fraud purposes, we do not change figures, but you can change just about everything else on an invoice if you need to. As long as it has not gone through a month end, you can change majority of the information actually on an invoice. Right, okay, so I've told you all about invoicing, where we can go back and have a look at our invoices and that type of thing. If I want, I can, you see under your outstanding here, there are some zeros. I can do not show and all my zeros will disappear. And then that figures all these outstanding should balance back. And I say should, but they do balance back to your debtors batch queries, telling you exactly how that money is actually being made up. This is a list of all of your invoices that it has done so. Right, okay, so what is there left to do on debtors? On your debtors clerk, the invoice has actually been made, whether your receptionist is doing it or your job closer is actually making the invoice. It now goes through to your debtors, and once a day, I generally say once a day, your debtor and your debtors clerk will get a copy of the bank statement, see who has actually paid, and also we'll have a receipt book to see who actually repaid any excesses or anything like that. So the only thing that they have to really do at this point is to make receipts. So once a day they go in, they go to processing, and they go to their receipts. All right, this is a list of all the receipts made so far this month. That is the figure that came through onto the batch queries. So we're wanting to actually add on a new receipt batch. We want to add on a new receipt. That is the receipt number we are actually using. It's written itself up there as well. We know one of two bits of information about this receipt. We either know who is the debtor as to who is paying us. So if you suddenly on your bank statement have Alexander Forbes, you know who the debtor actually is. Or they have written up and been very kind to you and written up an invoice number. So you can look it up by invoice number, or you can type in the invoice number that they have given you. Right, so we are going to go to lookup. It's an insurance company. We're going to say Alexander Forbes, and we say select. Right, so now if I go to my lookup button, only Alexander Forbes invoices will appear. If you want, you can go to do not show invoices with a zero outstanding, and it gets rid of all the zeros. So that is the one and only invoice that Alexander Forbes actually owes us. So I'm going to say that they have paid. I double click on it, and it now writes up that information into my receipt for me. The computer assumes that they have paid the full amount. This is what was original. That's the when the invoice was still first made, that is how much it was made for. What is still actually owing on this particular invoice. And then this figure here is what did they actually pay. I am going to say that they only paid 34,000. Right, so they were 660 Rand and 93 cents short on the money that they actually paid. Right, so what has come up automatically by me doing that is it says, do you want to make a credit note for that 660 Rand and 93 cents? That 660 Rand, they would have told you why they are not paying it. Either they are going to be paying it at a later stage, in which case you will leave it as outstanding, or they have said that they have taken a settlement discount, or they have actually turned around and said it was for an extra that was not authorized, so please pass us a credit for it because we're not paying for it. Whichever way, you must now decide whether a credit note needs to be made. I am going to say that it is a settlement discount. They have taken their 2.5% or whatever it actually is. Right, so the computer fills in as much information as it knows about. Because I haven't posted my receipt as yet, it still thinks that the full 34,000 is actually available. But it does know here that we are possibly looking for a credit note for the full 660. It now needs to know, is the VAT actually involved with this credit note that you are making? Depending on your scenarios as to whether you will be doing VAT or not, settlement discounts do have VAT actually on it. There are some scenarios, not very many, where you don't have VAT. But Dr. Smash is now giving you the option. So we just say calculate, and our total is correct, so it now works itself backwards. Right. It is a discount, so I click on there, and it now writes up that it is a settlement discount. If it wasn't, and it was for an extra not authorized, extra, okay, space bar, right, or you can go to your Dropbox and choose. You can actually add extra items to here. You can go and add to your Dropbox list and say edit, and it is extra not authorized, save, close, return. Right, so now if I went to my Dropbox, my extra not authorized is actually on that list. Right.
Christine, I think we have a few questions. I'm getting a couple of messages here, but they're not full questions. So I'm going to just unmute people and just see what the questions are. Okay, I have unmuted everyone. It looks like I've got a couple of questions here. Do you want to go ahead? Okay, doesn't sound like anyone's actually wanting to ask a question, but I'm getting a couple of private messages that look like they're wanting questions, to ask questions. So I'm going to give them a little bit extra time just to pluck up the courage to ask a question.
Okay, Max, do you not want to read the question?
They haven't actually sent me the actual question. They just, I keep getting messages saying hi, that they want, and I'm asking if I can help, but I'm not getting any responses back. So the only reason I can think of them messaging me for that is they want to ask a question.
Right. Okay.
I'm going to have to say that no one's asking a question, so I'm going to just go back to muting. Sorry for the interruption, guys.
Right. Okay. So that is how. Straight from when you are making. Okay, I'm muted.
No, you're not.
Okay, you just unmuted me. Thank you. Right. So that is how you can make your credit note straight from your receipting when you're doing your receipts. You can make your credit note straight away. Right. Our payment method is how did we get our money? It was a transfer or EFT, and we now say save the receipt allocation. Right. This total here, that should be the amount of money that you actually received in either your bank account or on your receipt book or whatever it actually is. So if they have paid more than one invoice, you go back to add new receipt item and actually add them back on. Right, now Alexander Forbes only had one invoice, so I'm just going to say, okay, save the receipt. Right, it was actually only for that 34, so yes, I have balanced, and I say post. Right, so I've now receipted their 34,000. I am going to have a quick look at my data again. Right. Let's see, there's a, oh, okay. All right. Alexander Forbes Insurance Company. Let's do them. Right. So we go back to add a receipt batch, add a new receipt. It comes up with the next number. So we're going to go to our lookup. It's an insurance company. It was Alexander Forbes Insurance, that one there, I'm sure. Yes, that one. Right, so if I go to my lookup and do not show, right, so they have paid us 39,000 odd rand, 40,000 odd rand. So I double click on, it was that one. It was an EFT. I save, and I now go to my add a new receipt item. It automatically knows that it says Alexander Forbes because it's still on the same receipt number. So I'll go back to my lookup and find my 19. I say save my receipt, payment method, save receipt allocation, and that is now the total of what they have actually paid us. Now, if they have paid you 40,000 and you don't know, you know that it's these two invoices, but you don't know what the settlement discount is on either one of them. What you can do is you go into edit the selected one, and it was the amount of, we are over by 36483. So we can now say that figure should be sorry, I don't have a calculator. 19,300. Let's see how close I got. 45 rand. Right. Right. So when I edited this one now, they were supposed to, I've got a balance of my 364. They were supposed to have paid 19,709, but they actually only paid, I think they only paid that. So I want a credit note for the remainder. So you can now do your credit note. It's a discount, calculate, total is correct. Okay, right. Because my outstanding balance says 364, I can click on that use, and it now breaks it down for me. Right, save the credit note. So I've now got my total to balance to exactly what they did pay me in my bank account, but I have actually put a settlement discount against one of the invoices. All right. Okay, so save the receipt. I autofill and I post it. Right. And I haven't actually done a receipt yet for our excess. So let's go in and make an excess one. Right, this time he's actually only going to have paid us 1,000 rand. So I'm going to say it should have been 2.5. All right, I go to my lookup. It's normal, it's a cash sale. Right, so if I go to my lookup, all my cash sale accounts come through. We find our Mark Foreman. If we only had a claim number or a job number, all you do is you're clicking on that header at the top, and putting it into that order so that it will find that information for you. Right, so we do Mark Foreman. You're supposed to pay 2.5, but he actually only paid 1,000. Right, it was cash. I am not going to make a credit note because he still owes me that 1.5. So I say save, save, and I can post. Right, so that is how you do your receipting. If you need to, you can go in also undo your processing and do a credit note. If I go to our add a credit note, look up insurance, and it was this one here. There was an invoice for 700 and something odd rand. I am going to say that it was an extra not authorized, and I can make the credit note here as well. Right, these credit notes have actually been made, but they have not been posted. The reason for that is it's only if you have the authority can you actually post credit notes. So that it allows the bosses, the debtors clerk can make all the credit notes, but only the bosses are the ones that actually go in and say, yes, okay, I'm happy with that, post it, and post it and that type of thing. So all we have to do to post is you go in, you can edit and have a look at it, but to post, you just click and say post. It now turns green. So it's quite simple to actually do your posting, but obviously you want to do your investigation. So you normally go in, you edit it, you have a look at it, you find out why. You can actually do post from this side, and it now posts it at the same time for you. Right, so that is how you do credit notes. Credit notes minus money off of the invoice so that they do not owe you as much money. A debit note will increase money actually onto an invoice. Now, you very seldom use a debit note. So the example of using a debit note will be interest on an outstanding invoice. You're wanting to actually do interest on the outstanding invoice, so you'd go to your debtors, processing of your debit notes. Right, let's go to add. Right, who is this for? So we go to our lookup. Sorry, I'm trying to remember if there was, I think there was a Hollard, if I remember correctly. Right, I go to my lookup. Right, this one has been outstanding since the 30th of September. So I'm wanting to make an invoice against it, and I want to charge interest of 200 rand. Right. It puts VAT on for you. You can decide if you want the VAT or not, but normally with interest there is actually VAT involved. And you can now say interest outstanding invoice, and you can say save the debit note. Right, here again, only if you have the authority can you go in and post that batch. Right, the other reason for actually making debit notes is if you have receipted a invoice twice and they've actually only paid you once, but you receipted them twice, you would do a debit note to cancel the receipting. So that's normally what your debit notes are actually used for. It is like a journal. You can use it as a journal to actually correct a credit note or a debit note that was actually a credit note or a receipt that was actually made in error. You would use your debit note as a journal to actually contra the one that was actually made in error. Right, so that's the only things that need to actually be done by your debtors clerk. Is the invoices have been made, sorry, credit notes have been done, your receipting and your debit notes have actually been done. So literally, the only job left for your debtors clerk is actually to do debtor queries and to do debt collecting. So to do that, they go into their debtor queries. You can do it by individual, but in invoice, if you know an invoice number, a receipt, credit note, or debit note, but I'm going to query it by a debtor. I'm going to have a look at my original Alexander. I think it was that first one. Right, at this point in time, Alexander Forbes actually does not owe me a cent, but these are all the invoices that are actually made for them. Right, sorry, and it's not my Alexander Forbes, so let's find my Alexander Forbes that I did. No, 2015, third time lucky, I hope. Right, there's my 2020. Right, so they still do not owe me any money. But if I have a look, this top section here shows me every single invoice that we have done for Alexander Forbes, what the original amount actually was, and then how much is actually still owing with our credits and our debits as to how many credits we've made and how many debits we have actually made. If I look at my invoice that I made just now, there's my invoice, and at the bottom here, it tells me what has happened to that invoice. The invoice was made, there's the claim number for job number and the person's name, right? A receipt was actually made for 34,000. It was an underpayment, but I also made a credit note and it was for an extra not authorized. So your description on your credit notes and debit notes need to actually be quite specific so that in 6 months' time, when you come back and re-look at this, you actually understand why you passed that credit note. Just writing credit note passed or as per the boss does not help anybody. You should write a reason as to why you've done that. Right. If I have a look at this one here, I can see that there were debit notes as well. So I have a highlighted. An invoice was made, a credit note was made. They then did a receipt against it. And so they had to correction of the receipt. So they have made a debit note to cancel the receipt that was actually made against that particular invoice. So you see how you can see what is going on. Oh, this one's got lots of different things that have happened to it. But you can actually see what has happened against it, and you get a zero balance coming out at the end. Right, so that is your query by debtors, and all you're literally going to be doing is you go into each one that you're wanting to look at, and let's see if I can, I'm trying to remember. Right, there's receipting that we did with our settlement discount that we did on that one. Right, this one here did have a 2.5% settlement discount, but they paid it off. And they still took a settlement discount on top of it all. Yeah, so you can actually just go through and look to see what is actually going on with each one of those parts. Right. Now, if there was actually one that had money outstanding, great. I know I've just used up all the hollowed ones. I'll see if there's, yeah, they do have money. So let's say do not show. Right. So this one here, that is the one that we actually put interest on the outstanding balance. So our original invoice was only for 13, but they now owe us 13,436 because we did interest on that outstanding balance. If we phone them and we speak to them and we ask them about debt collecting and all the rest of it, you can actually go in and you highlighted the invoice here, you say view the invoice notes, and you can now write up, I phoned so-and-so on such and such a date, this is what they've said, you do a date and stamp, and you say, okay. So you have now made a note against that particular invoice, and if you ever wanted to, you can come back. Sorry, I double-clicked instead of, and I can say view the invoice notes, and it will always be there for that particular invoice. So that for your debt collecting, anybody can do debt collecting, anybody can actually write up the invoice notes, and they can see the notes that have actually been written up. Right, okay. So another way of doing debt collecting is under our debtor reports. We go to outstanding invoices. This report is used almost daily. Right, print. I want to see for all my outstanding, but I can break it down into what accounting periods we actually want. And now what it actually is going to do is it breaks it down into each debtor for you. So there's my cash sale. These are all of my excesses that should have been paid straight away, but obviously have not. I can go through Hillcrest Toyota. They owe me that amount of money. There's page 2, I think it actually would be. Right, there is my hollard that I actually did, and it comes up with the word notes next to it because I have actually made notes about that hollard insurance invoice. So it reminds you that you have actually got a note against it and do what you can do about it. You see how this report actually gives you all the claim numbers, the job numbers, the names of it, so that you can do debt collecting from here as well. And your very last page should actually have a total as to what's owing, and that will balance back to your debt collecting. Your debtors batch queries as to how much money is actually owed at this precise point in time. So quite a nice report for doing your debt collecting. Right. So the only thing that is really left for the debtors clerk is once she has done her receipting, credit notes and debit notes for the day, she's done her debt collecting for the day, is at the end of the month, they need to run their month end. Now we say the end of the month, it's generally, it's up to you as to when you're wanting to run a month end. Some people like to run it first thing the next morning because they want to get in those last minute receipting. Some people like to do it straight after work on the end of the last day, so that everything is ready and waiting the next morning for the start of the new month. It's totally up to you as to when you run your month end. But to run month end, all you're going to do is you go to month end run. It's going to ask you, are you sure? You say yes. And it goes through and it will now do a whole load of checks and things like that. Obviously, I haven't actually posted all my credit notes, so I can't go ahead and do my month end. But once I have got all of these checks and balances actually balancing properly, it will run my month end for me. When it runs month end, it will automatically print out your invoices that were made in the month, your credit notes made in a month, debit notes, receipts, and it will print out your statements as well for you, as well as your age analysis. So all of these reports will actually get printed out automatically at month end for you. Your statement, it goes from one month end to the next month end, showing you all the transactions that you have done between those 2 month ends. So if you go in and you run your month end, and then you have a look at a statement and you, oh no, actually no, there was a receipt for this, and you quickly make a receipt, going back and looking at the statement is not going to reflect that receipt that you have just made, because that receipt is now in a new month. So the only way that you can get around that is if you make your receipt in that new month, but then you come to outstanding invoices for a debtor statement. You click on this one, you choose who your client actually is. Great. Let's do my whole lot under it. Got some information. All right, and it will now come up, including that new receipt that you have actually just done on it. So that is how you can get around if you have made you run your month end and then realized afterwards that your figures you hadn't finished your month end properly. It is a finger problem that you're now wanting to correct. You can now go in, you fix the finger problems, and then you can come back and do this outstanding invoices for a debtor statement. And this can be done at any stage throughout the month. So if you have clients that like to actually have a statement on the 15th, but you run your month end on the 30th of every month, you can actually on the 15th go and print out a statement for them, and it will print out everything up until this point in time. Right. Then a lot of these other reports that are actually on here are like debit notes, date ranged, pretty self-explanatory as to what they all are. Everything on this side is generally done after a month end. If you want an age analysis for a month, you just click on that, say printed. Sorry. Sorry, I had 2 things actually printed, ticked. Sorry. Right. Going to say, but I want for October, and I now selected. It will print out exactly the information as at the month end day of when you did your October run. All right. Yeah. Remember, I was telling you about that VAT report, that for each job you can check your VAT, make sure that your VAT is actually correct, that you have done it all correctly. Here is that report for you, a whole accounting month, where before month end, so that you can correct anything if you need to, you can actually go in and check for that particular accounting month that all of your VAT figures are actually correct, and that you have done your VAT, that there's no finger problems actually on those VATs. Right, I'm not going to go into it because the data could be chaotic. I don't know exactly what their situation is here. Right, so that is debtors.
Thank you very much, Christine. That, I think, brings our webinar to a close. Please join us again tomorrow for our session in the morning at 10 a.m. It's creditors, reconciliations, and financials. And then in the afternoon, we're going to go through your loan cars, in-house vehicles, and fuel recons. So very much a creditors and financial control section tomorrow. Again, thank you very much, Christine, and I hope everyone learnt a lot, and we'll see you all tomorrow. For those of you who are joining us after the webinars have all been recorded, as you can see, they are posted online. If you're looking for any more, they are on our YouTube pages, on our Facebook page, and then also on our web page under the notice board. So go take a look and see if there's more you can learn. Great. Enjoy the rest of your day, guys. Cheers.